and a whole lot of garbage. There is something leaking in there. Car and poison myself, but... Hey everyone! Now before I get started with today's video, I want to say that I hope all of you are doing well. I hope everyone is being smart and taking the necessary precautions, but most importantly, staying safe with everything that's currently going on. That does bring me to some bad news. So as some of you may know, I did have many events planned with the Hellcat ride, especially now with the new wheel setup, but with everything going on, some have been canceled. I was, however, able to make it to one half-mile event, so I'm very happy that I got that chance, but the other two, they were canceled. I had one private quarter-mile event and they did cancel it. They did postpone the date, but honestly, with how things are looking, they might cancel it, but I'm not sure. And the biggest event of all, which was the Never Lift half-mile event in California, they canceled that as well. I know that a lot of you wanted to see the Hellcat in action now with the new wheel setup, so at least I did get that half-mile event, and hopefully once all of this clears, we'll be able to take it out and have some fun with it. But now, getting to today's video, let's get started by moving the Hellcat and the Camaro out of the garage and bringing in the Camry. So before bringing in the Camry, I decided to do some spring cleaning. So this is what the trunk looks like. I have my gloves ready and I'm ready to clean all of this up. I have a spare tire that's useless and a whole lot of garbage. I'm sure there's probably some bugs, some animals here, but I'm ready to tackle this. And just like that, everything is out of the trunk. Now this is broom cleaned and I won't be detailing that, at least not on this video. That'll be in a later one. But I have to admit, taking all of these things out of the trunk was a lot scarier than taking the GT350 engine apart, just because I didn't know if something was just going to jump out and attack me. So today I want to dive in a little bit deeper with the Camry. I want to remove all four wheels, take a look at the brakes, the rotors, all the suspension components, and just pretty much everything underneath the car. I just want to see what's the condition, if something is loose, if something is broken, if something needs to be replaced. Honestly, I'm a little bit nervous just because I don't know what to expect, but there's only one way to find out. So let's raise the car, remove our four wheels, and I'll see you guys once they're off. So now that the wheels are off, let's start by inspecting the driver front side. So the first thing I see is that there's a zip tie here. So this is for this brake line. I don't think this is a big deal. I probably just have to get a new bracket, but interesting that they use that. And let's see, so here at the rotor, so just by feel, I do feel a bit of a lip there. So maybe they're fine, but either way, I had already planned to replace the rotors and the brake pads. I mean, I really can't get to them, like to measure them. So if I'm gonna replace the rotors, I might as well replace the brake pads. And let's see what else. Okay, here's the half shaft. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that, but there is a little bit of play here. So I'm not sure if the camera is capturing that. Now, I'm not being too forceful, but I do hear that. So I'm not sure if that's normal or not. I'm not really used to front wheel drive cars, but there is a little bit of play there. Now let's move to the bottom. All right, so there's a bushing, but I really can't get to that to see the condition of that bushing here. But I mean, I don't see any cracks or anything. And then the sway bar. So there's a bushing here. And it seems fine, no cracks or anything. Let's see what else. Let's look in here. So there's huge spider web. I'm not sure if you guys can see that on the camera. See if I could stick in my light a little bit further. Oh, so there is something leaking in there. Matter of fact, if I go a bit deeper in there, there's like a lot more fluid. Now, I'm not really sure what that is. I'm pretty sure it has to do with the steering, but there is something definitely leaking in there, which I'll have to check that out. But I think that, oh, obviously the shocks. Now, as far as the shocks, I really don't know in what condition they are. If they need to be replaced, I'll have to remove the strut for that, but that'll be in the later video. Either way, I think I'm just going to replace them with new ones. But I think that's pretty much it for the driver front side. So now let's move on to the passenger front side and then take a look at the rear. We're now in the passenger front side. I see no zip ties, so that's good. I don't need to worry about getting a new brace here. Now the rotors, I do feel a little bit of that lip, but once again, I'll be replacing all rotors and pads. And then let's check the half shaft. Okay, so that has a lot more play than the driver's side. Can you guys hear that? So once again, not sure if that's normal or that's something of a concern. If you can, please let me know in the comments down below. Let's see if there's any play with the spindle. Nope, no play there. Let's take a look in here. Since we found something on the other side. Okay, so that looks dry, but these hoses, okay, well, that's definitely not dry. That's leaking, wow. I don't know what those hoses lead up to. So once I get the car up higher, then I'll have to take a look at what that leads to, but there's definitely a leak there as well. Let's look here towards the bottom. So towards the bottom, again, I can't see the condition of that bushing right there, but nothing seems cracked. And then this sway bar, no cracks here for the bushing. Oh, look at this. This is so loose. Wow, look at that. Let me see if I can show you. You can see the thread. Can you guys see that? I can unthread this. Oh, man. Okay, so you guys remember that in my previous video, I mentioned to you guys that I heard a clunking sound on the right wall, on the passenger side, whenever I would make turns. So I'm not sure if it's that bolt for the bushing for the sway bar. We'll definitely need to fix that. Maybe it was the strut too. I know a lot of you suggested that maybe the strut might be loose, so I will have to check on that as well. That's pretty much it. So now let's move on to the rear. I'm at the driver rear, and honestly, there's not much going on here. Like I said before, I do plan on replacing all the rotors and brakes. I mean, I might as well replace the drum brakes as well. I already tested the e-brake on this car and it feels fine. Since I am replacing the brakes, I might as well replace everything. Now let's take a look here underneath. So everything seems fine. Rubber seems okay. Now I'm really impressed that there's zero rust here. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. There's tons of spider webs here with just the food hanging. I mean, this is pretty interesting. So it has a plastic end link. Now there's no cracks. Nope. It's fine. I'm really not used to seeing that. Now, as far as the strut, so that seems very familiar, especially from changing the springs on the GTR. So this is very annoying to get to because it's like all the way over here. So that's really annoying. I know the M3 has it as well because back in Florida, when Chris replaces springs, that was a pain for him. So I do plan on replacing all the struts, like I said before. So that is going to be coming off and replacing all of them on the car. But that's pretty much it. So now let me move on to the passenger side, inspect that, and then we can raise the car and then take a look underneath. So now that the car is raised, let's inspect the underbody. So let's make our way from the rear all the way to the front. All right, so looking down here, there's absolutely no rust, which was one of my worries. I was watching videos of Camrys, and this cross member right here was one of my worries just because in the videos that was filled with rust. It's not here. It looks in pretty good condition. I mean, this car is from Arizona. Well, at least the previous owner was from Arizona. I don't know what the first owner, well, I don't know where it came before that, because this car did have 2 previous owners before me, but everything is in pretty good condition. Now, these look good. They don't look like they've been replaced, but these do. Look at this. This looks pretty new compared to this. So maybe at some point they replaced the bushings here, but everything else here looks pretty good aside from our friends here hanging from the spider webs. Now, as far as the exhaust, this looks pretty good too. It looks in pretty good condition. I don't see any cracks or anything, no rust. I'm not sure if there's any leaks. I'm definitely not about to turn on this car and poison myself. This is pretty good. Wow, I'm pretty amazed. So everything is in good shape so far, but just from holding this slide, I can see some reflections in the front, which that doesn't look like a good thing. So let's go all the way up front and see what those are. So now that we're here in the front, I was absolutely not wrong. Look at this. There's fluid absolutely everywhere. But I think that just comes down to those hoses that I showed you earlier. There's some drops there that it kind of looks like it's about to fall on my face right now, honestly. I think that leads up to the power steering, and that's just, yeah, it's just drenched in fluid, so it probably just coated the axle as well, unless there's something wrong with the axle. But just looking at it, it seems to be pretty good, no cracks or anything, so that looks in good condition. If we look up here, look at that, that's coated as well, so that's the intake manifold. It's just absolutely drenched in fluid. I don't know, I really want to say that that's probably the power steering that's just coating everything here. It even coated here, look at the oil pan. That's kind of shiny too, just because it's drenched in fluid. So I really need to get that power steering replaced ASAP. But let's move on to this side now. And now, I don't know if this is part of that power steering or the transmission. This is coated, look at this. This is drenched in fluid. So I'll need gallons of brake cleaner just to get all of this off here. And that power steering just jumped in the priority list for the things that need to be replaced on this Camry. But I think that's it for here. I mean, other than just everything just being drenched. Now these bolts look new, so I'm pretty sure that they got that replaced. These don't look new, so they probably just replaced these. I mean, there's going to be tons of replacements now with this car. That looks new as well. Just like in the rear, everything here looks good. There's no rust, which was just one of the many worries that I had with this car. So I'm glad. Other than that power steering making this entire mess here up front, I think I'm just glad, and now I can kind of kind of just breathe a sigh of relief, just because everything is pretty good underneath here. So here we are at the engine bay. I know that I already showed this in my previous Camry video, but I do want to check some things here. So let's check that together. So first off, I mean, I already know that I have to replace the power steering just because it's leaking, and that needs to be done. Well, that needs to have been done like yesterday. Now the struts. So wow, that looks pretty new. This has a cap. Check this side. So this doesn't have a cap, and that does not look new. That's filled with rust. So then I'm pretty sure that they replaced this. Let's see. Now all of these hoses, they look good. I did check the oil and it looks good, but either way I do plan on doing an oil change. I need to get rid of this wire and then just get the bracket to hold the battery. Now as far as the air filter, I don't think I can get to this with one hand, but I still plan on replacing that as well. Brake fluid, that looks good. So now the next thing that I want to check are the spark plugs. So let me remove the coils, the spark plugs, and I'll see you guys after. And here's the big surprise. So as soon as I pulled this first coil, it was dripping in oil, and that's why I ended up getting this paper towel. So look at this. You see that end has some oil there. The rest of the coils were fine. All of them were dry, no oil. Just for some reason, like I think these two, the last two, those wires, they easily come off. I don't know why. This is that spark plug. Look at this. This is completely drenched in oil from head to toe. Now these are the rest of the spark plugs, and they look pretty good. I think that's normal wear for all of them, and they do have a little bit of oil, but that's from the threads up. But this one is just the entire thing. So I'm thinking that maybe this will need a new head gasket. I don't know, maybe not. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think after looking at that? But now that I pulled that out, now it's starting to make sense when I start up the car and all that white smoke comes out. So I'm thinking that this is part of the reason that that white smoke is coming out of the car. There may be something else. I was honestly starting to think that there was nothing wrong with this car until I decided to pull out the spark plugs, and it was like, bam! Hidden surprise right there. So we're done with the inspection of the Camry, and I'd have to say that overall, it's not bad. I think it's pretty good for being a 30-year-old car with 183,000 miles. I know that a lot of you were mentioning that in the previous Camry video. What was the mileage on the car? And I don't know, for some reason, I just forgot to mention that. But yes, it has 183,000 miles. We did find a few major things that I need to get to those ASAP. Like the steering gear might be leaking. I think that's what that's called. I had to actually research that. Or it might be the power steering, and for some reason that got all the way over there and it just coated the entire underside of the engine. And I mean, that big surprise with just the leaking of the spark plug, so that was a big one. I'm pretty sure that's the head gasket. I'm very excited to tackle that project. And I mean, there are a few other things that I do plan on changing, like the rotors, the brake pads, the struts, and other just maintenance items. I'm pretty sure as I go along, some things may pop up that I'll just decide to change or just replace some parts with new ones. But I'm very excited for this project, guys. Let me know, are you guys excited? And I mean, now I have to admit that I'm pretty happy with the state that the Camry's in. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.